okay, as we prepare for the June exams. Okay, so just follow through with me. If it's your first time on this channel, please feel free to subscribe so that you can always get in touch with the latest information. You can also like and also follow. Okay, so with the first one, what we're going to look at is question number 1. Okay, so with question number 1, it's usually a multiple choice question. Okay, let me just clear this out first. But before we go to question number 1, let's just have a glance at the instructions. They're telling us the paper contains 7 questions. All must be answered. An unprogrammable calculator may be used unless a question tells you not to use one. We need to show the calculations, diagrams, graphs that will be used in the answering should be shown, and we don't award answers only the full marks, okay? If necessary, we need to round our answers to decimals. Diagrams are not to scale. Question 2 and 7 in the spaces provided. Okay, let's see. Question 1. Are telling us that we must answer questions 1.1 up to 1.5 by choosing the correct answer. So what we need to do is circle the letter that is appropriate. Okay, so in this case, I'll just write my answer on the right hand side. So 1.1, which of the following options contains rational numbers only? So we know that rational numbers falls under the different types of numbers, so the real number system. So a rational number is one that can be written in the form of a fraction, okay? But we know that these fractions are categorized further into what we call the common fractions, the decimal fractions, the recurring fractions, okay? Now, if ever we have, let's say, the square root of something, or the square root of a number, let's say 25, we need to simplify this first, and then it is the answer that we're going to judge against the criteria that they gave us. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, if ever we're looking at the number system, we know that all natural numbers, all whole numbers, all integers, all these ones form what we call the rational numbers. Okay, so now, if I look at this, we know that a quarter is a rational number, 24/7 is a rational number, but we don't have anything like 4/0 because this will be undefined. So this is out. Negative 2,5401, square root of 89. 89 is not a perfect square, so this kills the question. Square root of negative 100, we can never get the square root of a negative number. We don't have it, okay, at our level. So this is also out, and we are only left with one answer. Negative 8 is an integer, which means it's a rational. Square root of 144 is 12 with a negative, that's okay, and then this is a mixed fraction. So option D is the most correct answer there. All right, then 1.2, they're telling us that to simplify 100 p to the a and then to the b, what must we do? Do we add the exponents? Nope, because this is a bracket raised to another power. So this exponent must affect everything that is inside the brackets, which means we're going to deal with multiplications, okay? Subtract exponents, no, multiply the exponents, correct. So option C is the rightful answer. And then 1.3, when they ask you to evaluate is more or less the same as finding the exact answer, okay? Many times learners get confused between the words simplify, evaluate, and all those things. So to evaluate is just more or less like simplify this thing up until you get a definite answer. So what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing 3 fractions, and then I just need to work out these common fractions, okay? So let me start with the first 2. Okay, so I normally use this butterfly multiplication. So 3 times 4, that's going to be 12x. 5 times 8 is going to be just a 5x over 15. Now I'm subtracting 1 over 15x. So 12 minus 5 gives me a 7x over 15 minus 1 over 15, but with x So I can see that the denominators are the same, so I can do the subtraction. So 7 minus 1 on top is going to be 6x over 15. Is there an answer like 6 over 15? Nope. So let's go back to the question. We can simplify this, okay? Look for a number that can divide 6 and can also divide 15. Okay, so that number is a 3 definitely. So by 3, we're going to have a 2. Then by 3, we're going to have a 5. So which means our result must be 2 over 5, but with x, which is option B. Okay, so that is how 1.3 would have been answered. So we move on to 1.4. They're telling us that we must subtract 3a over 9 from a over 9. So meaning that it is this that must come first. Whenever we see the word from, whatever was ended with must come first in your equation, okay, or in your expression. So it's going to be 3a over 9. Now we can see that the denominators are the same. So let's go ahead and subtract the numerators. So we know that this a is just more like a 1a. We normally use the invisible one, but I don't prefer putting it there, okay? So let's just look at it as a 1a minus a 3a, which must give us a negative 2a. Everything is over 9. So the correct answer is option B once again, okay? And then now 1.5, which equation below shows the correct use of the commutative property? Now remember, we have 3 properties, okay? Number 1, we have the commutative. So commutative usually works with only 2 terms. Let's say a plus c is the same as c plus a. Or if you say a times c, it must be the same as c times a. The order of addition and multiplication does not matter. So that is commutative. Then 2 is to do with associative. Associative normally works with more than 2 elements or 2 terms. So if you have a plus c plus d, this could be the same as a plus c first, and then the d. So the order of addition also doesn't matter. Same applies with the multiplication, to say that no, we cannot multiply everything at once. We can just choose 2 elements at a time, okay? So this is associative. And then lastly, we have what we call the distributive, okay? With the distributive, we know that everything that is outside of the brackets must affect everything that is in the brackets through multiplication. So that is a times c to be ac, and then a times d to give us ad. So d is out, okay, if I'm start from there. Then ab, ac, this is distributive, which is also out. A plus B plus C brackets, this is associative, which is out. So the correct format is A, which is the commutative. Okay, so that is how we would have gone with this multiple choice or MCQ. So in normal cases, okay, it is always 5 marks allocated to MCQ, but still any paper could even give you 10 MCQs or even 8, depending on what the examiners think, okay? So these are questions that could cover any topic. There is no specific topic for MCQ, so any topic can be asked or questioned, okay? So let's go to section B. Section B, they're asking us to consider the following. Okay, so we have 63, we have 252, we have 378. And then they want us to look at the prime factors, okay? Has been simplified for us also. So that 63 is the same as 3 squared times 7. 252 is the same as 2 squared, 3 squared times 7, and the story continues. Okay, then they want us to get the highest common factor of 63 and 378. So if I'm to just write it here, and then we have 2 times 3 cubed times 7. When they talk of the highest common factor, we just focus on number 1, what is common between the 2 elements, okay? So when I look at these 2, I'm seeing a 7, there's also a 7. So which means 7 is part of the SCF. Then I'm seeing a 3 squared, then I'm seeing a 3 cubed. So with the HCF, I always take the 3 with the smallest exponent, which is 3 squared. So which means my HCF is going to be this combination. So it's going to be 7 times 3 squared, which is 7 times 9, which gives us a 63. Okay, so that is our HCF. Then when they ask for the LCM, okay, the lowest common multiple. So we have 2 squared times 3 squared times 7. We have 2 times 3 cubed times 7. Okay. So we know that 7 is common. Okay, that's obvious. So 7 is part of the solution. Then I'm seeing 3 squared and 3 cubed. I take the one with the highest exponent for LCM, which is 3 cubed. And then 2 and then 2 squared. I'll take the 2 with the biggest exponent, which is 2 squared. And then all I'll do is just multiply this. So this is going to be like 7 multiplied by 27 multiplied by 4. And then I end up with my answer. So this gives me an answer of 756. Okay, so that is how I would have gone about this, okay? Yes, of course, there are other methods that we can use. But in this case, they wanted us to use this. Now, someone will ask you, now, what if you use a different method to come up with the answers? And I think it's absolutely fine. What we need in this case, since it's a 1-mark question, all we need is the answer, the correct answer, okay? So 63 and then 756 could be the answers. Okay, then 2.2 are telling us that Vusi and Temba each bought a pair of jeans from 2 different shops, okay? The selling price of the pairs of jeans was 599.99 in both shops. Okay, so the jeans are costing this. Then both shops offer a discount on the selling price as given below. So Vusi bought his for 20% less than the selling price. And then Temba only paid 3/4 of the selling price. So who paid less for the pair of jeans? Support your answer showing all your calculations. Okay. Before we answer this, okay, the easiest trick, okay, this is a 20% definitely. We can also convert this to a percentage. Okay, that's one way. Alternatively, change this to a fraction and then we see which fraction is bigger. Okay, so if I change this to a percentage, it could be a 3/4 times 100, which is like 75%. So this one paid only 75%. 75 subtract from 100, which means Temba got a 25% discount. This person paid 20% less. So they're asking us who paid less. We know it's Temba. But now, for the sake of the calculations, I know what the examiners want is just for you to show the steps with the amounts and what. But of course, for this kind of approach, yes, I would give somebody marks because you've compared the fractions and we know definitely. Okay, so if I look at Vusi's purchase, okay, we know that 20% is the same as 20 over 100, then times, this is 599.99. Please and please and please do not make 599.99 to be 600. It's not, because it's one trick that we also use and learners get it wrong by saying, no, this is going to be what? It's going to be 600. And as much as, yes, when you go to the shop, you cannot pay this much because we don't have 1 cent and 2 cents. Okay, so when I punch this into the calculator, I'm getting 119, okay, 998, which is the same as a 120. Okay, from to round off to 2 decimals. So if it is a 120, this is 120 less. So what did he pay? So 599.99 subtract 120. 599, we subtract 120, which means this guy paid 479.99. Okay, that's Vusi. Then let's look at Temba. Telling us Temba only paid 3/4, so 3/4 multiplied by 599,99. All right, so I punch that into the calculator. I'm having 449,99. So this is what Themba paid, 449. Vosi paid 479. So we can see that 20% is smaller than 25%. So the 25 is the biggest discount there. Then draw the conclusion, because the question was asking who paid less for the jeans. Therefore, Themba paid less. Okay, so you could get a mark for that, and then a mark for the correct for the conclusion. Okay, so still, even if you went the route of the percentages to see who got the biggest discount, that would also be a better option. All right, we got 2.3. 2.3 is telling us that a young couple, wow, they left the house and then drove towards the north at an average speed of 80 kilometers per hour. Their uncle left the same house some time later, but driving in the same direction at a speed of 88 kilometers per hour. So the uncle was a bit faster than them. How long did the young couple drive before the uncle caught up with them? How long did they drive? Okay, so the question is asking how long. Remember, for how long, they're asking for the time. How far is the distance? And then how fast is the speed? Okay, we're saying how fast. This one will be asking for the speed. And then how far? They're asking for the distance. Okay, so one thing we need to know is that for them to get together, for them to meet up, or for the uncle to catch this couple up, it's like the distance traveled has to be the same. So in other words, we're saying the distance of the couple must be equal to the distance of the malume. Okay. Now, how do we put this in simple terms? Okay. So what I'm going to do is, if the distance of the couple is DC, and let's say these people traveled for a certain time T, which I don't know. It simply means that the uncle must have also traveled some extra time. Okay, the time of these ones minus the time that the uncle traveled. So I'm going to use the speed, distance, and time formula. You know that speed is distance over the time. But now I'm looking for how long. So they never told us the duration when the uncle left after, because they just told us later. After how many minutes? After how many hours? The only thing they gave us was just the speed. Okay, let's see how we break this down. Okay, so if you look at this question, the uncle left the house at some time later, but it does not specify, like, after how long did the uncle leave the house, because usually you have to be given some sort of a hint, maybe after 10 minutes, 20 minutes, even an hour. Okay, so for us to work out this question, let me have an assumption, like maybe sometime later, maybe let's use 30 minutes later, so that this equation of ours of the same distance of the uncle and the couple can really be put into practice. So what this means is that if I'm looking at the distance, remember we say distance is going to be the speed times the time. So if I'm focusing on the couple, so it's going to be the 80 multiplied by the t plus I'm going to have 0.5 should be equal to the 88 multiplied by the t. because now I'm taking t to be the time taken by the uncle and then the 30 minutes for the couple, because they would have traveled 30 minutes extra. Now, if I open this up, I'm going to have 80t plus, and this is going to be 40, should be equivalent to 88t. Then I'm going to move this 80 to that side so that I have 40 is equal to 88t minus 8t, which is like 8t is equivalent to 40. Alternatively, this 8t could be obtained by just subtracting the 88 minus the 80 so that we get the relative speed that the couple and the uncle are using. Then if we try to divide both sides by 8, so 40 divided by 8, this must give us 5 hours. Now the question is asking, how long did it take the young couple to drive before their uncle caught up with them? Now it's going to be these 5 hours, okay, plus the extra 30 minutes that the uncle took before he started off the journey. So which means it's going to be 5,5 hours. Okay, so if ever, let's say the question was giving you 20 minutes later, then that's how the question would have approached. But based on the original format of this question, there was no way we're going to be able to work it out. Okay, probably something was left out. Okay, then 2.4. They're telling us that somehow borrowed a certain amount of money at 11.5% per annum compounded annually over a period of 6 years. The total amount that he paid at the end of the period was 670,000. How much did he initially borrow? Must round off to the nearest 10. And so the fact that they're telling us that it's compounded annually, so which means we're going to use the compound interest. So we know that our A is 670,000. Okay. P, we don't know what the P is, but we know that the I is 11.5 compounded annually per annum. Okay. Then the N is 6 years. Okay, let's just substitute that. So we know that A is P into 1 plus I to the exponent of N. So for me to have P alone, it's going to be A over 1 plus I to the N. Our A is 670,000, okay. We're dividing it with 1 plus 11.5%, or you can make this over 100. Ne? And then we just put it to the exponent of 6. Okay, so the next step is just for me to punch this into the calculator. Okay. So punching this into the calculator, I'm having 670,000 over this 11.5%. Okay, they said the exponent of 6. So I'm getting a big number, which is, remember it was 607, but okay, this is going to be 348. Okay, 684. Let me just rewrite it out again. Okay, so we're having 348, 678. 84. So this is how much this person invested for them to end up with that much. Okay, question 3. Choose the correct word within the brackets to complete the sentence. So the quotient of two numbers with different signs is always positive or negative. Now, what does the word quotient mean? Quotient is more like the division. Okay, so the division of two numbers with different signs. The answer is going to be negative, because when you're dealing with integers, what happens that the opposite signs must always give you a negative, and then the same signs must always end up positive. All right, and then 3.2, we need to fill in. So this symbol means less than, this means greater than, and then this represents the equal sign. Okay, so we need to expand this. So that's going to be negative, then 2 times 2, which gives us negative 4. This side we have a -4, so the correct option is equals 2. Then they want us to simplify this or break this down. Now we know that for as long as we have a number, okay, and that number is 1, to the exponent of whatever number is this, because it will be like 1 times 1 times 1 times 1. Ones being multiplied together must always give us a 1. But now the difference is that this negative is not part. Okay, so it's more like a negative and then a 1 to the 2022, something like this. So chances are high, our answer here for this first part is going to be -1. Plus, when we say -1 now, this one is being put in brackets. The negative is part of the brackets. Okay, so that we have a -1 to the exponent of 2024. Now, if you multiply this, the fact that this 2024 is an even number simply means that we're going to end up with a positive answer. So that is that. The answer we get is going to be 0. Then 3.4, calculate the following without using a calculator. Okay, so this question doesn't want us to use a calculator. Okay, so we expand this. We know that 2, okay, let's leave 2 alone. We know that 4 cubed is going to be the same as 4 times 4 times 4. And then a positive and a negative. We're going to have a negative of this times 4 again. Then a -12. And then square root of 144 is a 12. All right, pretty simple. So I know that this 12 and the -12 can cancel out. So I have 2 minus 4 by 4 by 4 is going to be 64. Then my question is, what is 2 minus 64? That's going to be -62. So that is how we arrive at that. Okay. Same story, no calculator needed here. We have this cubed times the square of this and that. Okay, so let's start by simplifying the square root of 25. We know that that is going to be a 5. Ne? So that's going to be a -5 times, no, it's -5 cubed. Then times, we know that the cube root of -8 is going to be a -2. You're squaring that over. This is going to be -3 multiplied by -3 squared is a 9 plus 2 by 2 plus 3. Okay, we have more than 2 signs there. So products first, multiplication first. So that's 4 plus 3, which is a 7. Okay, then come down. We know that -5 cubed is the same as -5 times -5 times -5, which is -125. Then -2 times -2, that's a +4 over -3 times this is going to be -27 plus 7. Okay. Now, if we have -125 4 times, it's going to be 500. Ne? Going to be a negative, but 500 over. This is going to be -20. So negative and negative, we get a positive answer. The 2's cancel, which means our answer should be just the 25. So that's how we would have attained the 4 marks. So please just try it out and see what answer you get so that we can just compare the solutions.